Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into one of the most famous web frameworks in the Python world, Flask. You've definitely heard the name thrown around, but what is it really? And more importantly, why should you still care about it today? Let's get into it. But first, just for a second, when I say the word Flask, what actually pops into your head? Is it maybe something you'd find in a chemistry lab? Or maybe something you use to keep your coffee piping hot?
Well, according to Wikipedia, you've got options. It could be a hip flask, a lab flask, a unit for measuring mercury, or even a pub over in London. And while all of those sound pretty interesting, we're here to talk about this one, Flask, the Python web framework.
So what is it that makes Flask so special? Well, it all boils down to its core philosophy as a microframework. And here's a fun little piece of trivia for you. The whole thing actually started as an April Fool's joke. No, seriously. The creator, Armin Ronicher, bundled a couple of libraries together, joked about it being a framework, and then people started taking it seriously. And he realized, hey, this could actually be a really powerful tool.
So what in the world is a microframework? To put it simply, it's a minimalist approach. Think of it this way. Flask gives you the absolute bare essentials you need to build a website, and then it just gets out of your way. It doesn't come with a built-in database system, it doesn't have a form validator. The whole idea is to keep the core incredibly simple and let you, the developer, add only the pieces you actually need. It's all about extensibility. My absolute favorite way to explain the difference between Flask and its big rival Django is to think about Legos. Flask is like getting a giant box of basic bricks. You can build absolutely anything you can imagine. You have total control. Django, on the other hand, is like getting a pre-made Lego kit for a spaceship. It's awesome, it's powerful, and you'll build that spaceship super fast. But you have to follow the instructions and use the pieces it gives you. And you can see this box of bricks philosophy right here. I mean, look at this. This is a complete working Flask application that just says, "Hello world," in 5 simple lines of code. Now, under the hood, it's relying on 2 key libraries. One called Worksog, which handles all the complex web server stuff, and another called Jinja for managing your HTML templates. That's pretty much it. It's lean, it's simple, and it's ready for you to start building. Okay, so we've set the stage. We know what Flask is all about. Now let's put it head-to-head with the undisputed giant of the Python web world, Django. This is the classic matchup, right? Flexibility versus the all-in-one powerhouse. This table really lays out all the trade-offs. With Flask, you get maximum flexibility. It's your call. But if you want a database, well, you have to go get an extension, usually one called SQL Alchemy. You need an admin panel to manage your data. That's another extension you have to add. Django, on the other hand, comes with all of that stuff out of the box. A powerful database system, a ready-to-go admin panel. It's batteries included. And that's exactly why its learning curve can feel a little steeper, while Flask often feels a bit more gentle for beginners. And this difference in approach has a huge, huge impact on community support. Because Django is older and just so much bigger, it has a massive footprint on sites like Stack Overflow. We're talking over 300,000 questions. Flask has a really strong community too, don't get me wrong, but the scale is just different. And that can mean that if you get stuck on a problem, finding an answer in the Django world is often a bit easier. But, and this is a big but, don't let that community size fool you into thinking one is better for serious real-world applications. Just look at this list. Netflix, Reddit, Uber, they all use Flask, especially for things like APIs and smaller services where its lightweight nature is a huge plus. And on the other side, you've got massive data-heavy sites like Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube, all built with Django. Even NASA uses it. Both are absolutely trusted by the biggest names in tech. It's all about picking the right tool for the job.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about a really crucial real-world challenge. You've spent weeks, maybe months, building your amazing Flask app. Now, how do you get it out there for the world to actually use? This whole process is called deploying to production. And with a micro-framework like Flask, it's something you have to think about very carefully.
And this is so important that the official Flask documentation puts out a very stark, very direct warning. That simple little server that you use when you're coding, it is not meant for public use. It's fantastic for testing and debugging, but it is not secure, it's not stable, and it's definitely not efficient enough to handle real users and real traffic.
So how do you bridge that gap? Well, in development, you're just using that simple Flask run command. But for production, you need a professional-grade setup. This usually means using something called a WSGI server, like Junicorn or UWSGI, to actually run your application code. And then you often put that behind something called a reverse proxy, like Nginx, which is fantastic at handling all the incoming web traffic and passing it along efficiently.
And because Flask is that box of bricks, guess what? Security is another one of those bricks you have to put in place yourself. This is absolutely critical. In Flask, you are responsible for things like preventing SQL injection attacks, adding CSRF protection to your forms to stop malicious requests, and making sure your session cookies are properly secured. These aren't just suggestions, they are fundamental for any real-world app. For years and years, the story of Python on the web was pretty much Flask versus Django. But recently, the plot has really thickened. A new challenger has stepped into the ring, one that was born in the modern era of web development and is, well, quickly winning over a lot of developers. This timeline puts everything into perfect perspective. Django set the stage way back in 2005 as the big all-in-one solution. Then Flask arrived in 2010, offering a flexible, minimalist alternative. But then, in 2018, Fast API showed up, and it was built from the ground up to take advantage of modern Python features, specifically asynchronous programming. So what makes Fast API such a big deal? Well, it comes down to two huge things. First, it's built on something called ASGI, which is asynchronous. In simple terms, this means it's incredibly fast because it doesn't just sit around waiting for things like a database query to finish. And second, it has automatic data validation built right in. You just use Python's type hints to say what your data should look like, and Fast API handles all the validation, error messages, and even generates interactive documentation for you. It's a massive game changer, and developers are really noticing. Just look at this number. Fast API has absolutely skyrocketed past Flask in GitHub stars. Now, that's a huge signal from the developer community. It doesn't mean Flask is irrelevant, not at all, but it shows a clear and undeniable shift in excitement towards this newer modern framework. Which brings us to the big, provocative question on everyone's mind. Is Flask dead? One article from the dev community that explored this very topic pointed out a few warning signs. Flask's development has slowed down, it's primarily run by just one main maintainer. The community, while it's still there, feels a bit less active, and there's a sense that Flask has been reluctant to embrace modern trends like native async support. So is its heyday behind it? Ultimately, dead is definitely the wrong word. Evolving is a much better one. Flask isn't going anywhere. It is still an excellent tool for what it was designed to do. The real takeaway here is that the Python web world is just richer and more diverse than ever. It all comes down to using the right tool for the job. If you've got a huge, complex project on a tight deadline, you should probably look at Django. If you're building a smaller, flexible prototype where you want total control, Flask is still a fantastic choice. But if you're building a modern, high-performance API where speed is everything, Fast API is pretty clearly the new champion. So the question isn't which one is best, it's which one is best for your project. And now, you've got the knowledge to make that call.